Why are you doing this to me? You said you loved me and we'd marry. Why are you not treating me this way?
Will you shut up? You're always crying like a baby. You see my problem with dating small girls? I get angry easily, so you have to bear with me, babe. As for marriage, when it's time, you know I'll pick you.
Amy was a lady full of energy and a workaholic right from a very young age. In secondary school, as a day school student, she was involved in small scale businesses like selling small chops and selling trendy items to her schoolmates to get small profit. She dreamt of being a big business owner by the time she entered her early 30s. Her first year in the university, she had her first clothing store, and she supported herself through that. Amy was one people said looked tough on the outside till you got to know her. Then you see how much of a softie she was. Back at home, she had the man of her dreams, the kind of man that ticked all her boxes physically. Thriving business plus a lovely relationship. Life was going pretty well for Amy. He spoiled her with all sorts of goodies and always included her friends. When going out together, he'd want her friends to tag along, which was admirable, and they liked him for that. What a good reason for the girls to like him. He didn't have much but tried to do things in his own little way, and Amy loved him more for that. With every glancing word, he made her believe in him. He was her laughter, her best friend. This was the man she would spend the rest of her life with, not until the subtle red flags she ignored in the beginning because of how deep in love she was started to become more obvious to her. After a year of a beautiful relationship, Chris's sweet words turned into harsh criticisms. His hands that once held her close began to push her away. He controlled her, what she wore, who she talked to, who she should be friends with, and even how she ran her small business. Slowly, Amy's world began to crumble. Her business failed because of him. You know, all those times he would buy things for her and her friends and take them out. Guess all this time it was with Amy's money. He would borrow from her with a convincing excuse, and because of how much she loved him, she'd always give to assist, and that wasn't a problem. The problem was him knowing the money was from her business and he never bothered to pay back. The few times he did, it was only part of it. When they had fights, even if he was at fault, she'd always come back pleading for forgiveness because she craved his attention. He always told her he said mean things to her out of anger. Maybe he laid his hands on me because he was correcting me. I am probably the problem, Amy would say to herself, but nothing ever pleased Chris. Things had to go his way. Amy's smile disappeared and her heart became a battlefield. She knew she was in constant pain but couldn't find the strength to leave. This man, the sweet soul she thought she knew at first, all of a sudden became a monster. Her eyes started to clear, but she couldn't accept the reality. It had all been there in subtle ways, but it never occurred to her things would get worse. Maybe he would come back to his senses one day and love me like he used to. Amy always hoped. Days turned to months and months to years. The man she thought was her everything turned to her worst nightmare. Her friends and family tried all they could to keep her away from him, but she kept going back. An example of you can force a horse to the stream, but can't force it to drink water. She held on to the little moments of happiness she felt with him and the sprinkles of care he showed her. With the years she had spent with him, close to 10 years, how was she going to start again? Maybe this is how my romantic life is supposed to be. I just need to bear with him and accept him for who he was. Every man sleeps around. It's a normal thing. It's better to stick with him now that I'm familiar with his demons, she'd always tell herself in their early years together. Another fight had broke out between her and Chris. At this point, Amy started becoming tired of the constant back and forth. She had become less of herself. She felt financially stuck because the man she loved drained her to the fullest. One evening, Amy was on a stroll. A man in a fine car drove towards her. When she saw him, she thought to herself, these men and their wahala. What does this one want now? He asked where she was headed and offered to give her a ride. As you can see, I was walking on my own. Do I look like I need help? Amy said. As a matter of fact, yes, Amy needed that ride to get home. She became exhausted after her stroll to her destination, but didn't have any money on her to get back home. After pleading for a while to take her home, Amy agreed and they introduced themselves to each other. Funny enough, he was an easy person to converse with. Amy talked with him like she had known him before. She liked his vibe, but that reminded her of how she felt with Chris the first time, so she shut herself emotionally. If he was going to ask her out, she had made up her mind to chop and clean mouth. They talked a lot for several hours over the phone, went on dates together, but all that was on her mind was how to enjoy while it lasted and leave. She didn't care about love anymore. Meeting Daniel helped her forget Chris now that they had broken up, and she enjoyed his company. Daniel was a loving, calm, and respectful man, but Amy was so used to chaos that she didn't know when she would act rash and disrespectful towards Daniel. He was so calm and patient she thought it was very strange. Daniel treated her with a kind of love she didn't recognize. He listened when she spoke. He respected her silence. He never raised his voice or his hand. She would sometimes try to start unnecessary fights to provoke him, so he would react aggressively, but he never did. Instead, he let her create all the nuisances till she became calm. Then he'd handle the issue in a better way. Daniel never left. He stayed quiet, patient, and full of love. Anytime she questioned his love for her because she couldn't understand why he loved her this much, he'd say, I'll be here till you recognize home. I'm here to stay. You may take me as a joke now, but time will tell. When Chris saw Amy was taking longer than usual to come back to him, he pleaded for them to get back together, and for the first time in her life, she didn't want to. This new feeling of calm with Daniel was everything to her. Messages upon messages, calls upon calls. He said all manner of things to degrade her, and Daniel confronted him about it. He already knew about Chris and everything he had done to the love of his life. Over time, Amy's walls broke down. She couldn't believe she was capable of believing in love again, the one that she could clearly see she was adored. She gradually became like younger Amy, no longer naive, but she felt like a small girl in the arms of a protector. He supported her business, and for a start, she was doing quite well. In just 2 years, like joke. What was supposed to be a moment of chop and clean mouth turned to forever, and this time around, she was truly with a king and more, her one and only king. All to love and be loved. What a priceless experience to keep up with new stories. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. This may encourage someone having it difficult to find genuine love. Your thoughts are greatly appreciated. I love to read them in the comments. See you in our next story.